I'm Dooris. Welcome to The Story. Tonight we're going to talk about home field advantage. You know, remember when you were in high school or college and the other team has to come to your place to play a game? You have lots of your fans and you're comfortable and it's just easier. It is great to have home field advantage, which is why it's infuriating that a group of Portland kids and their parents have had to live without that for 2 long years. That's our big story tonight. This lack of home field advantage has nothing to do with money. Over the past decade or so, taxpayers in Portland have shelled out more than $2 billion in bond money to renovate the public high schools and regular schools. McDaniel High School in Northeast Portland got a makeover of $240 million. But at that school, something went very wrong when it came to building the new ball fields. Here's investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi.
1, 2, 3, Meieran!
It's game day, and McDaniel High School is on the road facing Ida B. Wells. But for McDaniel, every game is an away game. 2 years after a multi-million-dollar renovation at the Portland High School, the softball team can't use their own field for games. They've got to play elsewhere.
We have to go off campus, and those get called home games, but they're not at home.
And baseball is in the same position. Instead of playing on a new turf field just steps from their own high school, players and their parents have to travel across town for home games.
You know, it was like, wow, we get a new field. It's so exciting. And it's been a bummer the last 2 years.
It's incredibly frustrating. It's just sitting there.
These student athletes are often pulled from class early, missing school, so they can jump on a bus to get to their home game.
Today I just had to leave. I got into Spanish class for 5 minutes and I had to leave.
Not to mention there's a lack of school spirit and a sense of community when you're playing every game away.
I have friends and family who are like, oh, I want to come watch you. And it's like, oh, well, my game is at Delta. That's like 30 minutes away.
In September of 2021, Portland Public Schools celebrated the reopening of McDaniel High School. The roughly $240 million renovation included new theaters, common areas, and athletic fields. But at some point, it's not clear when, the district realized there was a flaw in the baseball and softball fields, making them unusable for games. In an email to KGW last year, the assistant athletics director explained, the issue is lack of a protective padded wall or cyclone fence in front of a short cement retaining wall. In essence, it was a safety issue. But 1 year later, it sounds like there's more. In a letter to the community, the district wrote, unfortunately, the new netting does not allow baseballs to bounce off the netting and remain in play, thus effectively shortening the length of the field and making it unusable for league games. To fix the problem, the district plans to install custom steel poles that will hold up new tension net and some protective padding, the letter explained.
Wouldn't they know how to build a field correctly? So was that contractor paid? Where's that contractor? Are they paying for their mistake?
Many parents, frustrated by delays, feel the district is giving them the runaround.
No real good answers as to why the problem hasn't been solved yet.
Last June, Portland Public Schools told this reporter in an email the field will be ready for use for league games next season. Clearly, it's not. And when parents confronted the school board about the delays in March,
how is this still acceptable? 2 years on, and what are you going to do about it?
A school board member reassured parents and players the field would be fixed soon. It wasn't.
And it sounds like you guys will miss your first home game, and then after that you should be good to go.
Portland Public Schools declined an interview and did not respond to written questions. In a statement, the district wrote, the project continues to be delayed by supply chain issues and labor shortages. We will continue making every effort to remedy this situation as quickly as possible. This isn't the first time Portland Public Schools has run into issues surrounding a newly renovated athletic field. In 2021, the district agreed to build a softball field at Grant High School in response to a Title IX lawsuit, which claimed plans for a softball field had been scrapped during a renovation of the high school.
I want to know that the money that is going to the district is being managed right.
Issues surrounding athletic fields are consequential because Portland Public Schools is in the midst of a massive modernization project. Right now, construction crews are working on the field at Lincoln High School. Over the past decade or so, taxpayers have approved more than $2 billion in bonds to help fix up Portland's aging schools. A lack of transparency can erode voter confidence.
If we vote for a bond that's supposed to give us a school with athletic facilities for our kids, and what we wind up with is a really nice school, the athletic facilities don't really work out so well, then it makes it harder to say yes to the next thing that comes up.
And on a more basic level, the kids from McDaniel just want to use their own field instead of playing every home game away.
Kyle joins me now, and I thought that mom, I guess she was a mom, had a great question. Who's the contractor and what went wrong?
Right, and great questions that we hoped to answer. We weren't able to. Matt, let me walk you through the reporting process a little bit here. So we started out initially by submitting a request to Portland Public Schools Media Relations team. This is their job to communicate with the public, asking for an on-camera interview. They said no. So we figured, well, let's submit some questions. So we emailed a list of maybe about 8 questions to Portland Public Schools, which we felt were really important, like who's going to make this fix, how much are they getting paid, what does the fix look like, what's the timeline, that type of thing. And they didn't answer our questions, did not respond to that. Which brings us to where we are today. I submitted a public records request for any contracts associated with fixing this field. Again, who's getting paid, how much are they getting paid, what does that look like? And we're still waiting on those records.
And for folks at home who don't know, I mean, these are basic public records. It's as simple as it gets. You get the request, boom, send it.
They've acknowledged the fact that they've received the request, which is required by law. And now we wait, and hopefully they do provide that. And we'll come back and explain when we do find out, again, how much it's costing and who's doing the work. And then also why it's taking so long.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're keeping the pressure on. What's next for the kids and for the fields till they can finally use them for games?
And that really is one of the big questions, right? When can they use this field to play games? They've been practicing on it, but no games. According to the district, with all the delays and things, they're hoping by sometime this summer to get it up and running. But again, as you saw in the story, we've heard this before.
This is the same district who said, oh, you'll miss the home game, that's it.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, Kyle, thanks a lot. Appreciate you keeping the pressure on those folks. Up next on The Story, I sit down with Multnomah County Commissioner Sharon Meieran to talk about her stunning editorial in the Oregonian, where she pulled back the curtains on the catastrophe that is the plan to solve the homeless crisis.
The reality is there's actually no plan, no overarching plan, and that is because there's no cohesive, united governing body that is creating a plan.
She'll break down how the system operates now and what she thinks can be done to right the ship and put us on a path towards success instead of meandering through the cycle of misery we see today. That's next when The Story returns. Now to a conversation with a Multnomah County commissioner that's sure to raise the hackles of some and might even get you up off the couch. We're going to talk with Sharon Meieran about homelessness. Meieran is actually Dr. Meieran, an emergency room doc who ran for county commission and got elected 6 years ago. She ran for county chair this past November and lost, but she's still a commissioner. Her term will end in December of 2024. She has more degrees than a thermometer, degrees in English and economics, and also a law degree, all that before going to medical school and getting a medical degree. So yeah, she has a lot of brain power. And she's served on several boards focused on medicine, opioid abuse, and others. I wanted to talk with her because of this. It's an editorial that she wrote recently in the Oregonian. It was published in late April. In it, she celebrates the hiring of Dan Field as the new director for the Joint Office of Homeless Services. But she also reveals with stunning clarity how messed up the effort to solve the homeless problem is right now. I think it's important that you know her thoughts because this is an issue that is sucking up literally hundreds of millions of dollars right now in our area each year. Most of it, if not all of it, comes from your tax money. The human misery by both the people living unsheltered and their sheltered neighbors is awful for everyone, and it needs to end. But this conversation reveals how far we are from even being organized to tackle the problem. Okay, let's get into it. Meieran's first statement is that there's no central government structure overseeing our effort to end homelessness.
That is correct.
How can that be?
That is a question that I ask frequently and put it in the op-ed because what I've heard often is people saying that I don't know what the plan is, you know, it's not communicated well, and sort of foisting it onto communication. But the reality is there's actually no plan, no overarching plan, and that is because there's no like cohesive, united governing body that is creating a plan.
How will we ever know if we're making progress if there's no coordination and no plan?
That is something that is a question I've been raising for quite a few years now, and that I really wanted to highlight in the op-ed, because we truly need outrage. We need pushing of our city and county now that we have new leadership at the county, now that we have a new director of Joint Office of Homeless Services. We have an opportunity to maybe reset, put these pieces together. But until now, we haven't had the structure, the political will to combine forces, unite, and create a common plan.
Is it because the county's going over here doing one thing, the city's over here, there's nonprofits, Lord knows doing what?
It's a combination of all of those things. I mean, I have been trying to figure that out since I came to the county. And at first...
6 years ago, right?
6 years ago, at first I thought there was a governing body. And then I thought the Joint Office of Homelessness was an actual joint Office of Homelessness between the city and county. What I learned over time as I peeled back layers of the onion was that the joint office is actually now a county department exclusively, with no oversight or governance by the city. And so the city, we have an agreement. The city puts a whole bunch of money into the joint office. You know, they offer their ideas and try to work with, you know, the leadership of the county to see if their ideas can be implemented, but they have no say. They don't have the power over the joint office. And so for the 6 years prior to our former chair leaving, there's not been that desire to coordinate and collaborate. And it's not been a joint office. It has been the chair leading the joint office and directing all of that.
Holy cow. I think a lot of us believe there is some clear picture of what needs to happen and who's going to do it. But Meieran, with her inside perspective, is telling us, nope, that's not the case at all, which is stunning to me since the County Joint Office of Homeless Services has been funded with more than $738 million since it got rolling back in 2017. And to that proposed budget for next year, add to that $265 million. If they get all of that money, taxpayers will have spent $1 billion on the homeless issue in 7 years in Multnomah County. And we're only talking about the money running through the Joint Office of Homeless Services.
So going back to your points, no centralized government structure, there's no coordinated plan. I think that's going to be a surprise for a lot of people. There's no plan?
There's no plan. And so...
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
I mean, I find it hard to believe. It can't be that there's no plan. There's probably a million individual plans that aren't all working together.
There are a million individual pieces of plans. That's part of the problem as well, that we get caught up by I mean local government, and then, you know, frankly in the media, once we come, you know, we have one little tiny piece of one big part of a plan, it sort of sucks all the air out of the room. It takes all the attention. So for example, the mayor's concept of the large, you know, campsites or whatever they're called right now, yeah, can that be part of a cohesive, larger plan to address homelessness? Absolutely. But while we're busy arguing about that, it's like, what are we doing about the big pillars? Prevention, shelter writ large, which is, you know, has to be a whole continuum, not just one little idea. Permanent housing, and how are we tying all those together? There is nothing that ties them together. And by focusing on each little shiny new object that comes out with a little catchy name, we lose sight further and further of that big picture.
Because at home, our attention span is somewhat limited. We've all got busy lives, and so we're like, oh, here's a news conference. Oh, this is going to be the solution now. And we focus on that for a few months, and then nothing changes, and then there's another new one. And
exactly. And what I encourage people to do is take that step back. In thinking about homelessness, what we want to see, it's three pillars. Like I said, it's prevention, has its ecosystem of strategies, shelter has its ecosystem of strategies, and housing. Those are the three components of a plan to address homelessness. And instead of working on parts piecemeal of each of these, some cohesive body should be putting those together.
Because then there could be accountability too.
Well,
right?
That's a whole other thing as well, is we don't have the structure to create a plan, and absent a plan, we don't have accountability for any of the pieces of it. So, you know, how many shelter beds do we actually need? We don't know, because we don't know how many people are living unsheltered. We don't know what they need. Could they be served best by motels? Most expensive, least sort of bang for your buck? Some people need motels, but most people do not. What's the option that can serve the most people most effectively? We don't know what people need, who they are, how many, so we can't even put that in place right now.
Okay, but to push back just for a moment, there's this point in time count. Isn't that when we find out how many there are?
No. The point in time count is not an actual accurate measure of really anything about who's living outside. It's a snapshot. It's like a vague stab in the dark, and you can look at it over time to compare, but what it does, it goes to the places where you generally know people already are who are in the system. We reach out a little bit to those people and, you know, ask them questions. What it doesn't get to are all the people we don't know who they are. So there are people, and I volunteer with Portland Street Medicine, so I go out to places who say they've never had any outreach worker come talk to them. They're in places that are not in the, you know, central city or places outreach goes to. No one counts those people who we desperately need to know who they are. And then even people we do count, if you're passed out, if you are, you know, psychotic, if you're just feeling angry and depressed, don't want to talk to someone, or agitated, no one's gonna go up and count you. And so the people who are most in need of counting aren't counted.
I don't know about you, but that sort of leaves me angry and depressed, I think. After all this time and all this money, we're still not getting a good sense of who is on our streets. But my conversation with Commissioner Meieran is not all bad. After this break, we'll share why she is hopeful that things will change, thanks to a program that she says has proven effective across the country.
I am heartened that we're going in that direction as more and more people truly understand it.
Straight ahead at 6:30, we're following breaking news where 2 people were found dead in a Southwest Portland parking lot this afternoon. Plus, Oregon Senate Republicans have walked out again, this time over abortion rights and gun safety bills. We have a reaction from both sides. And a day in the life of Portland police on foot patrol, the effort to increase their presence on the streets of downtown. That's next at 6:30.
Welcome back. Let's get to more of my conversation with Multnomah County Commissioner Sharon Meieran. It's rare to hear this level of detail from an insider, and I think it's fascinating. I hope you do too. As I mentioned at the top, the Office of Homeless Services has a new director, and Meieran says she's hopeful that things will change now. One of the things that she's pushing for is a detailed name registry of the homeless people in the county so that they can be tracked and helped.
Meanwhile, we have more and more people dying on the street. We have more and more people living on the street in squalor, and no one's focusing their attention on that. And we need to be saying, okay, go ahead, do these things with shelter, figure out how much shelter we need, what the best approach is, then invest in it. But we need to be putting it all together in a big picture. How are we doing that? And that's what I feel that we should be doing every single day. There should be meetings between, city, county, whomever, to hammer that out, our partners, and make it happen.
I mean, one thing, there's no central registry or list of who the people are who are living outside, right?
Correct.
Why not?
So you're talking a couple of things that touches on. One is a by name list, which, it's a lot more than the name sort of sounds. A by name list is identifying in real time who all the people are as individuals, as human beings who are living outside, including where they came from, what their needs are, what their barriers have been, so that we can allocate we have a lot of money, but it's still limited, so we can allocate that effectively to what they need. So the by name list is the count. this Built for Zero, you might have heard of that, but Built for Zero is a strategy to say, okay, now that we've identified who people are, let's build what they need to get to zero people living outside, functional zero, but fewer people living outside. And I worked with Commissioner Dan Ryan at the city, I think it's over 2 years ago now, to get Built for Zero adopted by the Joint Office of Homelessness. There was a lot of reticence, but we were able to push it through. And then there was a lot of just sort of pausing and reticence to really implement it effectively. Now there's a leaning in of saying, okay, we're doing Built for Zero because this is a strategy that has proved effective across the country, and it's just common sense, which is what we need more of. But as you know, now they're saying we're doing it, but we're actually not. We're using our old lists. We're not reaching out to know who we don't know, like I was talking about earlier. And we need to be leaning in and doing that work. So I think there's an appetite to do that, and I am heartened that we're going in that direction as more and more people truly understand it. We're not nearly there. We do not have a by name list, and we need one.
Wow, yeah.
Okay, so here are the takeaways. Despite what we hear from time to time, there's no coordinated plan to end homelessness in Multnomah County. If the Joint Office of Homeless Services get the money the chair wants to give them for next year, we will have spent $1 billion in 7 years on the homeless problem. We need a name registry of people with no homes so that we can keep track of them and get them the help they need. And finally, there is hope, a new county chair and a new director of Homeless Services Office. And by the way, here's my opinion on this. First, I appreciate Commissioner Meieran being willing to speak out. This is no doubt going to make her life a little bit harder on the county commission and in politics in general. Second, I was watching to see if this was just sour grapes because the commissioner wanted to be the chair and ran and lost in the election. But I'm convinced that's not the case. She has a clear vision of what's wrong and also a clear vision of how things can be fixed. And I think that we should follow her lead and demand change. We should demand a unified plan from the county and metrics on accountability and coordination. The problem is too big, the stakes too high to ignore this. That's my opinion. You don't have to agree, but I secretly think you should. But here's how you can get involved. Meieran urges you, the members of the public who are watching, be part of the solution. Go to the county commission meetings. You should show up and testify. The very first part of every meeting is reserved for public testimony. You can show up and tell them what you think about this. Tell them that you saw the story on The Story and what you want to have happen. You don't have to be an expert. Just have an opinion. Regular meetings are held on Thursdays at 9:30 in the morning. You can go in person. It's at the Multnomah County building on Southeast Hawthorne, Boardroom 100. Or you can watch and even testify virtually from home. Get a bunch of your friends. We have a link attached to this story online, and it's also just a few clicks away when you Google Multnomah County Commissioner Meeting. In the meantime, what do you think about all this? What Sharon Meieran had to say about the homeless crisis in our area? Were you as stunned as I was at the inefficiency of all of this and the lack of a centralized plan? Do you have any ideas on how it could be handled better? Send us an email, will you? The address is thestory@kgw.com, or you can call and leave a message. Our voicemail is 503-226-5090. Well, that's the end of our show. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, the story, our collective story, well, that never ends. Tomorrow, we're going to tackle the capital gains tax proposal that's on the ballot in Multnomah County. Those ballots started hitting your mailboxes yesterday. In the meantime, be sure to stick around for the news at 6:30, and we'll see you tomorrow.